host of Black Towel Radio, and I think we're going to start doing these news updates in between interviews we do. Sorry for the lapse in interviews we've been releasing, but we encountered some technical difficulties, and now we're all set up and back ready to go, giving you the best in alternative media. But right now, I wanted to run down some articles I saw today in news. The first one is this Zero Hedge article, which is just staggering. The U.S. government lost $1.2 trillion in 2017. This was on page 1 of the Treasury Department's annual financial report. This was during a good year, apparently. A good year where we supposedly added all these jobs. There was no major wars, nothing out of the ordinary anyway for us. And, we had a record high in revenue of $3.3 trillion, but still lost $1.2 trillion all in all, which is staggering and amazing. That's really not a sustainable situation. It also says here that as the government tabulated its own assets and liabilities, as it says here, so an individual might calculate his or her own net worth. You add up the value of your assets, like your home, car, and bank account balance, then subtract liabilities like mortgage and credit card debt, and the end result is your net worth. Like it says, hopefully it's positive. But on page 55 of the Treasury Department's report, the government's net worth is minus $20.4 trillion. And that's worse than its result from the previous year's minus $19.3 trillion. Our net worth as a country got 6% less in 1 year's time. The amount we lost last year in 2017 was more than the entire Australian economy. We lost $2.2 million per minute. Why don't you just give me some of that money? If you're losing $2.2 million a minute, why don't you give the American people some of that money? If you're wasting that much money, let us have a piece of the pie. But that caught my eye. I mean, obviously, it's pretty, a grave situation financially for us. This next article also caught my eye. The U.S. Air Force chief warns of space war in a matter of years. Speaking to an audience of active duty airmen, U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff General David Goldfein predicted it'll only be a matter of years before American forces find themselves fighting from space. And he says to prepare for this grim possibility, the Air Force needs new tools and a new approach. And obviously, a lot of money. To keep up with the Joneses, to keep up with China and Russia, this is the direction we have to go. You need a strong military, but I mean, as everyone listening to this knows, we already have a secret space program. We already have, untold amounts of weaponry in space right now, and the technology that exists that we have is probably mind-boggling. Just a couple months ago, the government admitted that it has wreckage from a spacecraft in a Las Vegas warehouse, where the wreckage is an alloy, is a metal alloy that they've never seen before. So why don't we just say that they have a crashed alien spacecraft? I mean, where else would they get metal never before seen on Earth. And you can't tell me they haven't reverse engineered any of that technology and used it for ourselves. So, I mean, we already know what's going on with all of that. I mean, anyone listening to this show is fully aware of the secret space program and the long history our country has with covering up, crashed alien spacecraft and harboring that technology. But the Air Force wants to create, a space corps in the mold of the Marines to the Navy. Well, I mean, this guy wants to do that. It's not a super popular idea in the Air Force, according to this article, because it would siphon a lot of funds away from the Air Force, towards this special branch, and everything's a turf war and a contest for funds here. So, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm sure we'll hear stories like we heard years ago of the CIA giving NASA what they termed was obsolete technology that was 10 times more powerful than the Hubble telescope. The Hubble telescope, by the way, was the most powerful telescope known to man at that point. But the CIA had something 10 times stronger than that they deemed obsolete, that they were just handing down to NASA. I'm sure we're going to see things like that in the Space Corps. The CIA has this technology they deem obsolete. We're just going to give it to them. It's really no big deal to us. And it'll be minor news articles that will only be shared by members of the conspiratorium, as Lionel calls it. But yeah, that this is a certainty to manifest moving forward. The Space Corps is pretty much baked in the cake. And last but not least, Palantir, the company owned by Peter Thiel, the famous lone conservative in Silicon Valley, who's recently moved his headquarters to Los Angeles, has secretly been using New Orleans to test its predictive policing technology. I guess they've been using this technology, this predictive technology, to track drug dealing gang members in New Orleans. It's been going on, I guess, since 2012, according to the article, while not notifying anybody, apparently. Not even the city council, nobody. It wasn't used as evidence in any of their trials, even though they were using this predictive technology as evidence against these people to convict them. The way they got around this, apparently, was they teamed up with a nonprofit and did it as a gift to the nonprofit. So they got around it because they weren't being paid for their services, and they technically weren't a part of the government. They were a part of a NOLA for Life program, which was ran by the mayor, Mitch Landrieu. Obviously, this technology was fostered by the CIA. All of these technologies are. The program began in 2012 as a partnership between New Orleans Police and Palantir Technologies, a dating mining firm founded with seed money from the CIA's venture capital firm, In-Q-Tel. In-Q-Tel has its dirty little hands in everything, doesn't it? There's so many problems with this, so many civil liberties questions, biases in the way they go about targeting individuals, getting information. There's a ton of questions related to this, and I don't think a technology should ever be used in the American justice system. Something like this could be very helpful in tracking, international criminals, from the United States looking outward into the rest of the world. But in terms of using it on our own citizens, I firmly do not believe that it would be a good idea at all. There's a whole list of reasons. But I would like to thank you guys for listening to my first, news update here. And I'd like you to give it a like, if you will. We're going to be doing these more often. We're going to get the interviews back up and running for you guys. We fixed the sound for you guys. We're going to have balanced sound. It's going to be great. So stay tuned. There's more to come from Black Tower Radio. Thank you guys, and like I said, please give it a like. It'll expand its reach within the algorithm.